All right, my next pick. I mentioned cornerback. That's where we're going to go back to. Siobhan Ravel, East Carolina, class of 25 as well.
Oh, yeah.
Just talk
Yep.
about
Good one.
absolutely love this guy. I know small school concerns and then the injury problems as well. Uh, Listen, I still love, and it doesn't happen every year. I don't pick these guys every year, but every second or third year, there's a guy that comes out who's got the length and he's
Yep.
got the height and he's physical. And while he may not be blazing fast, he's got speed too. And I love those guys. And it's real hard for me to pass up on them, even when other people are beginning to. And, Siobhan Ravel, Will Johnson, Sauce Gardner. Listen, I know everybody loved Sauce Gardner, but I had him as one of the top two picks in the draft that year, and I wouldn't back off of it. It was him and Kyle Hamilton for me. I just could not get away from those two guys. And I believe that was Ikem Ekwonu's year as well. Those three guys for me could not back off of, and I can't remember if I got the right year on Ekwonu there, but
I think you're right.
um, Sauce Gardner, Will Johnson, Siobhan Ravel, love those body types. The speed looks good. The
Hmm.
tape looks good. Again, you got to love the tape. I love the body types. I love the tape. But again, the thing I am checking myself on though is when those guys get injured, it can be a very big deal. At that position, it can either be a consistent injury concern throughout their career, or it could be they just never get that hyper explosion back, whether it's their straight line speed or their cut ability. Maybe they never fully get that back, and that matters at the NFL level. So that is something to watch out for when the injuries hit as well. Okay, much as I love them, maybe we got to back off of them.
I love Ravel. He was on my list. Another guy that I've been writing and potting about all summer. I feel like he's going to be part of Dallas trying to take their defense to another level. I'm
Yeah.
all in on this. I'm really excited about this. Um, Dang, that's a good one. And see, this is a my guys draft, and the way you're building your secondary, man, is a lot of fun. I've got one of those guys, and then I've
Right.
got like some nice safeties that are just there, like being smart, button up guys, but we are kind of seeing my evolution here of the secondary of like you're building
Yes.
your secondary the way I built my offensive line. The secondary for me is turning into this collection of the way I have viewed secondary for since we've been doing this. You start with Joey Porter Jr., like give me the long press man cover guys,
Hmm.
and then give me the Maxwell Harrison, give me the crazy hair on fire in your face, mess things up kind of guy. And then Starks and Bryant are kind of where I settled in this year of the do I really need a number one guy, or can I just have five guys on a string that are smart, that are athletic enough, that are good football players, and that's going to be fine. I think as the year went on and the draft process went, I kind of disproved that to myself. Like it's obviously better to have, yeah, if you can get a number one guy, like go do that.
Right.
Um, but I feel like I've built this secondary in a way that kind of represents all of those things. So I'm gonna go ahead and just round that out. I'm gonna leave one guy that I think we both have on our list that I think you might still have a spot for on your side, and I'm gonna take Avion Terrell because with all the corners that were in this class, that were talked about that we liked, for me, I felt like I was banging the drum on Terrell of like to what I think the position is now. Like he is extremely sticky. He mirrors well. Like you can tell this guy has been born to play corner, and you could see that in his brother.
Yeah.
And you could see, I mean, he talked about when he was drafted, like he idolized his brother. He grew up watching and wanting to do everything his brother did, and you could see that in the way he plays. Because when he's in coverage, he sticks. He is mirroring his opponent like crazy. He is right there every step of the way. But then he's still got to have a little bit of what I want in him, and he will come down and he will hit and he will, and maybe he's not always the
Right.
best at it because he's smaller. I've come off of like you have to be like a linebacker level tackler to be a corner I like, but the effort, the want to is there, the
Yeah.
physicality is there, and I think he could play slot. I think he could play outside. Um, but the mirroring ability, the stickiness is something that I think I'm starting to value more at corner now, and Terrell has that.
Well, it's funny. That's probably the thing I like best about Terrell because I I wasn't as high on Terrell, but I didn't drop him clear out of the world either. But that ability to come in and run support and aggressively run support,
Hmm.
like loving to mix it up and determined to find a way through the rocks and the waters to get there, you
Yep.
know, in spades, man.
Yeah, it's not a show when he tries to do it. He's
No,
he's he's like, oh, thank God, I get to try and make a tackle right now. He's in for it.
yes.
All right, what do you got next, Ben? You're gonna hit your defensive front, or you want to round out the secondary?
I'm going to round out the secondary, but I'm not picking a third CB. I'm going back with another safety. Okay.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Sorry,
This
Mike
may not,
Stammerstill. Sorry, Mikey
yeah.
Stammerstill. That's what I thought. That was my last guy on the list. I thought you might go there.
So I've got three guys. I'm not going to pick one of them because I don't think I'm different enough on consensus. But I will start with him. That's Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. The reason
Yeah.
that I even mentioned him at all, because just about everybody loved him, right?
Hmm.
But because he played safety, there were people that wanted to rip him down, and I was perfectly content to draft him second, third,
Yep.
fourth. I'm like, this guy's good. I don't care what position he plays. And I get it, if there's a tackle sitting there and an edger that you just absolutely cannot pass up, that's why he might drop to fourth or fifth. This guy's so good. So I love Caleb Downs, but I'm not going to pick that because I don't think I'm different enough from consensus on that. Another name drop here, Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, class of 24. Not a great safety, but a decent safety. And again, a guy that I was much higher than consensus on. I really liked him early second round. I love his intelligence. I love his hitting. I love his box work. He's not great in pass cover. Unfortunately, that's a big problem. But I love the other outstanding attributes, and I thought he wasn't brutal in pass coverage. So, but the name I'm going to pick here is from the 26th draft. Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo.
Yep.
Listen, I like this guy. This guy has unusual athletic traits that are not so different from Nicky Manwari. I don't think he's quite there, but you talk about a guy that loves to mix it up, loves to stick his head in there, loves to crash it, but also has the ability to free safety. Man,
Hmm.
I I'm not going to go where I thought about going because it created too much controversy when I said it, but he has excellent free safety ability. Now he's not quite as good at ball tracking and ball hawking, but you talk about the ability to get to those places, and this is where it really shows up. From a deep safety spot, he can also get all the way to the boundary on a running play and crush it.
Hmm.
He's got that long stride and the physicality. And I'm telling you that those athletic traits, it may not be all pro or Hall of Fame, but that's a guy that can play football. And I really love it. So that's going to be my fifth defensive back here.
Yeah, I got to EMW late in the process, and I think that's a guy that can definitely grow. I think as a post Eamon Worry, and maybe just that little bit of extra lightness and flexibility, like I think he could be a nickel corner at some point. Like I think he could cover. I think he can play free safety at some point. Like consistently. I think you can move him around and do stuff with him in coverage that you can't do with Eamon Worry. So yeah, I like this pick. This is a good one. Um, all right, let's see here. I want to have a tight end conversation. You have Harold Fannin. I still don't quite know what I'm doing with tight ends. It eludes me. I think I have a checklist for stuff that I look for, like meeting a minimum threshold, and then it's hard to figure out what makes someone a really high value pick. Um, I liked Colston Loveland. I didn't love him, no pun intended. It was just like,
Right.
cool, like, okay, yeah, he gets open down the field a little bit. Okay, he has effort as a blocker, like all that's nice.
Yes.
And he had a good year, a few really highly productive games. Ben Johnson takes him when, he kind of has a couple tight ends already in the building. So it's like,
Hmm.
okay. And now he's like everyone's breakout star candidate for
Right.
2026. I'm just like, that guy really like he's fine. Um, but you go through the history and there's not a lot of difference making tight ends that of these recent draft classes, right? And even like if you look at all the guys playing now, like if you go back to Kelsey and Kittle when those guys drafted, there's a reason those are still like the top tight ends people think of, right? We don't have a consistent
Yeah.
stable of tight ends, I feel like breaking it. And the guys that have Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, they're the new archetypes. This is like you want the H-back body type that's 6'2", 240 and can run, right? And I learned that in the scouting process this year for a guy like Kenyon Sadiq, who similar to the Eamon Warrior thing, like he stands out athletically, he's different, and his talent is there, his athleticism is there. But this is a weird body type for tight end. How is a team going to use him? But then you look up the measurables of 6'3", 235, very athletic. And yeah, that just happens to be the best two tight ends in the NFL right now, McBride and Bauer. So like, okay,
Yep.
now that's what I'm looking for moving forward. But between 2022 and now, who was a my guy? And I'm gonna go with this one because this was considered a really good tight end class. And that was the 2023 class. This was Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta, Tucker Kraft. Luke Musgrave was my guy from this class
Yep.
because what everyone was saying about all three of those guys at the time, it's funny because Tucker Kraft was considered more of the inline blocker first type tight end who can also catch a little bit. He's become the best
Yep.
guy in this class, an explosive pass catcher. But Kincaid and Laporta were like move tight ends. They're going to play in the slot. They're going to run routes, catch passes. Um, Tucker Kraft is and Darnell Washington are the inline block first types, tight end twos who maybe can catch a little bit. And then Luke Musgrave was the guy like right in the middle. It's like 6'3" and a half, 250 some pounds, really good athlete, good catcher of the football. Was Michael Mayer in this class also? Was he also that class?
He was 23.
Oh my gosh. So, and he was a little similar where it was like bigger body, but a pass catcher first. Musgrave was like a true wide tight end. So I remember hanging my hat on him, just being like, okay, this is the guy that's going to be in line. He can block, but then he can go run routes and be athletic. And out of all those guys, he's probably had the like least productivity, and even amongst his own teammate. Um, but that was the guy that, for what I was looking for in tight end from I think 2022 till 2025. That's what I was looking for. An athletic wide tight end that can block and catch. And maybe now we're just in a world, especially in this world of 12 and 13 personnel, we want that. Maybe you need all three types. Maybe you need, you think about the Bears and Komet is that Musgrave type, 6'3", 250 some pounds, wide tight end, gonna block, but then can catch a little bit. Loveland, true receiver first, split him out wide, let him run, let him move. And then they take Sam Roush, who's gonna be a blocker, right? He's coming in to be another offensive lineman, essentially. And maybe you do have to segment it that way, and that's what we're gonna look for, and you gotta, pick and choose what you need. Um, but yeah, Luke Musgrave was kind of where I settled at with a my guy. And again, wasn't even like I looked at him and was like, this should be a first round pick. This was just in the conversation of tight ends for that year and this period of time. This was the guy I was looking for.
It's so funny. The Bears are the extreme version of where it has cycled to the past year or two and where it will stay probably for a year or two. And that is three tight ends. You mentioned it. One blocking. Roush is a fantastic blocker who can catch underneath, but that's about it. And then you mentioned the other two roles. But it's hard to know sometimes. You look at everybody wants to go and grab the tight end who doesn't block at all, but he's just fast and lean and can catch. Some of those guys haven't panned out, they
Mm-hmm.
just haven't. So you
Nope.
can't just go and grab a fast one and call it a day. It's not easy to know. You were actually higher on that tight end group that year, the Musgrave year, than I was. I had picked out two guys, and I was like, man, the rest of them I don't know about. It's been a much better group than I expected. But you were on the other end of that coin.
All right, Ben. It's time for your defensive front. Look at you, leaving like clean slate edge rusher, defensive line, linebacker. What are you gonna do here?
So apparently, when it comes to defensive ends and defensive tackles and linebackers, I have the fewest separations from consensus,
Mm-hmm.
or at least emotional separations. Just didn't have much. That's why I left them. So anyway, this is a bad one. Okay, I got to own it. David Ojabo out of Michigan, class of 22.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I really like this guy. I,
You
I
you can hang on to this, Ben. If he does not tear his Achilles in a pro day, you never know. So you hold on to this with all your might for the rest of your life.
yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to do that, even though it's sitting that low hanging fruit is sitting there.
You're a better
I
man
I
than
was
me.
yeah, I was telling people to draft Ojabo first round, so they probably should not have done that. We'll never truly know because of that Achilles, but
Do I remember a take of Aiden Hutchinson's not the best edge rusher on Michigan, let alone in the draft? Do I rem
I
am,
not quite. I did say that
you
Ojabo
just
was
said he was
showing more
faster
burst off the
first.
edge.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
that was the thing.
See, I just tried to
Um,
get you in trouble there just for fun on hour 45 of the podcast.
well, it's still sitting there. Yeah. So that's a really bad one. And it's one of those things where I'll go back to production. Hutchinson, and I'm still not, even to this day, I'm not as high on Hutchinson as some people want to be. Some people want to make him defensive player of the year every
hmm
year, kind of in
hmm
waiting.
Yep.
He's not that. Maybe he'll get there. He still could get there. But boy, we've seen year after year where he's not quite that. And that was usually my point is like, well, maybe he is the best player in the draft, but this isn't your normal number one guy. He's not a Bosa. He's not a Watt. That was always my point with Hutchinson. But you I am I have adjusted over the years. Production does mean something.
I'm gonna also go defensive line. The last guy that I like wrote down, I had a list of 21. Like if I could get all 21 of these guys out of 22, I'd be thrilled. Um, and this is kind of the last guy that's left. I'm gonna take Peter Woods just from this class.
Yeah,
Um, it was funny at the beginning of the year last year, like it couldn't have been a my guy because everybody he was everyone's guy. Everyone loved Peter Woods.
everybody.
And then he just falls and falls and falls. And I think I still ended up probably with him like 13th or 14th on my board.
Yes.
And he ends up going to what 27 or whatever it was to the Chiefs at that point. Um, Clemson changed his body type, or he changed his body type over the between his I guess sophomore year and his junior year, whatever classification he was under. Um, and it just didn't work for him. His whole thing when he was an underclassman was a big body, 310, 315 pound guy with a quick first step. He's not fast, but a good first step, and then just a mass to create the space he needed.
Yeah.
And he slims down, he loses that weight to try and be faster overall. And he just like the first step was the same, but then he was just easier to knock off his spot, and he wasn't truly fast enough to make a huge difference.
Right.
Now, I don't know where he's at right now in terms of the weight. I don't know if Kansas City had him pack some back on. I don't know if they let him stay kind of doing what he was doing. Um, Maybe it works out better him being a little bit lighter, that like 300, 305 range. In Kansas City, maybe they work with that better than Clemson did. But either way, there's a lot of talent here that I never fully came off of. So I'm going to stick Peter Woods on my line.
I think you're right. And I wasn't as high on him, but people go too far the other way, right? I
hmm
talked about right off the opening of the show. You want to adjust and recalculate and recalibrate, but you don't want to overreact. Draft boards are bad about overreacting. They see a guy falling and they're like, "Oh crap, I got to pull him down too."
Yep.
It's like, well, not if you did the work. Why drop him if you did the work on him? So I'm with you. He should have been higher than what he was. I didn't really see why he should drop.
All right, what do you got next?
I'll go back to Edge, a guy that I know well. This year's draft denied Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. Um, I'm not going to fight for him first round. I know better. The explosion just is not there. But man, people wanted to put him outside the top 100, and I just never could get there. I'm like, this looks like a top 75 player to me. This looks like a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback. He does look like he's really smart. Penn State, I thought, did a lot of dumb things with him during his final year there. But you go back and look at the previous year, and people wanted to take that away from him because he was playing opposite Abdul Carter. But the work looked really good, man. I mean, really good. And then he held up. They didn't have to take him off the field in his final year at Penn State, even though they moved him more to like over the tackle or even inside the tackle, he held up so well against the run against these top Big Ten rushing attacks. They didn't have to take him off the field. He stayed, you know. So, and he wasn't getting the chance to show what he could do from an edge rushing standpoint. So again, first round player, no, I had to back off of that. But still, to me, a top 75 player, top 60 type player, I just did not understand why the crowd moved off of him.
Yeah, that's a good one. That was definitely your guy. I've been keeping an eye on him as I'm doing some write-ups and stuff, and he's had a quiet camp. I think he was actually hurt for a little bit during camp, but that's a guy with an opportunity in front of him in Green Bay. I'm gonna go back to the edge as well, and I'm gonna take Ohio State's JT Tuimoloau from a couple classes ago. Just a stout, long arm pocket pusher, just and literally long arm is his favorite pass rush move, but he had a little spin, just a worker, and it has not gone well in Indianapolis so far.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a guy that I watched and I just immediately was drawn to. Like this is the style of player I'm looking for. So between Verse and then Tumalau, like again, I wanted to kind of show the mirror image of like this is a version of it when it works, this is a version of it when it quite doesn't. So yeah, JT is one for me.
I'm gonna take the out here because I loved JT as well. I was right in there. I mean, goodness gracious, I might
Hmm.
have even liked him better than you did. I
Yeah,
don't
you
remember. It
might have
was
at one point. Yeah, I think you might have
yes,
at one point.
goodness gracious. But I just looked at him and saw a football player, and I will say they're not exactly the same. To me, there are similarities here between JT Tuimoloau and Dani Dennis Sutton.
Hmm.
The idea that they're not great at any one thing, but they just look well-rounded enough, like they couldn't be a bad player, like they should be a really good football player. And I still, okay, I try not to do this often. I still contend that those two kind of guys had ended up on a Mike Vrabel led kind of a defense or a Patriot level kind of a defense, that they may have been perfect fits for those schemes, whereas in other places they're just kind of left out to dry. So, that's my thought.
All right, what do you got next?
Next, I need a defensive tackle. I guess I really need two, but I may not have two tonight. So, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan.
Yeah,
You know,
baby.
I really was not too far off of consensus here with him, but the reason I leave him in here is because I did fight for him pretty hard when some people were trying to pull him down,
Hmm.
and they might have been right. You know,
Yeah.
ultimately, that burst, that explosion, that ability to get to the quarterback, even the ability to defend the run hasn't been as good as I thought. Because I thought at least he'll shut down the run game and
Right.
contribute to getting the quarterback. Hasn't shown up yet. Maybe it will, but it hasn't shown up yet. So anyway, there were a lot of people who liked him just the way I did, but there were some voices, some notable voices saying maybe we should rethink him, maybe we should pull him down. I stuck with him all the way.
I also loved Grant. He was on my list. That's a great one. I'm gonna stick with defensive tackle and take my next defensive tackle. I'm gonna take a Darius Alexander out of Toledo. Um, this could still work out. You know, there's a opening there for the Giants in the middle of their defensive
Yes.
line now. But he was one I think I ended up with my in my top 40. And he ended up going, I believe, in the right at the top of the third round for the Giants. Um, again, give me a guy with a little with some size that can move a little bit. And it's funny watching him on tape because the competition from against Toledo was not great.
Mhm.
So you see this guy who's 6'6", 320, and the types of dudes he was lining up across was like kind of laughable. But then he's beating them inside, and the first step was just excellent.
Yes.
So uh, Darius Alexander was a guy I liked coming out quite a bit. So I'll go with him as my second defense tackle.
Loved him too. Had him top 50 or 60, I think. What I really thought was, hey, if nothing else, we rotate this guy in on third downs and he gets
Right.
after the quarterback. Like, how can
Hmm.
he not?
Yep. All right.
All
What do you
right.
got next?
I'm going to move to linebacker. This is not a miss, but people will fight me on this. And I'm going to fight them back hard on this. Okay. So, Demetrius Knight, South Carolina, class of
Oof.
25, playing for the Bengals. Okay. The Bengals have him playing out of position. It is so freaking ridiculous. This guy is the best tackler of that draft. It's not even close. You talk about his ability to tackle is beautiful. His ability to play inside linebacker is beautiful. He's a smart guy, with decent athleticism that should be able, once he gets his spot, to play decent versus the pass, but brilliant versus the run. They've been throwing him out there at edge and outside linebacker all of last year, not every snap, but a lot. And that's not his game, you know? Like even I was at some point I was listening because I loved Demetrius Knight in the draft, but as an inside linebacker, okay, smart guy, great tackler, can hold down the fort. John Gruden, I was listening to him last year do one of the game previews, and he said the exact same thing. He said, you know, they got him playing out of position there at outside linebacker. He's not going to operate well in space. They're going to cook him out there, right? He just can't do that. You play him inside linebacker. I'm a big believer in this guy. So that's my guy right there, Demetrius Knight, a linebacker from South Carolina.
All right. We'll see we'll see how that works out this year for Cincinnati. They're giving them the chance again, so they're seeing the same thing as you. All right, since you're on linebacker, the much awaited, everyone's been waiting with bated breath, Ben, for this second linebacker. Do you have an inkling? Do you remember this take from me? A Cincinnati linebacker that I thought profiled like the way we talked about Sonny Styles. This is one of my oldest takes.
Oh
So you're
yeah,
gonna have to go back.
Darian Beavers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
baby. Yeah, baby. It should have worked out. It should have worked.
Yes. My
Six,
gosh.
6'4", 245. I think he might have been a safety like in high school, and then he just bulked up so much when he got to college. He played linebacker, and it was funny because I mean, I'd have to. I mean, I got it right here. I can look. Um, I was like, make this guy a first round pick. Like I am all the way in, and I mean, he was projected day two, like up until the draft, and he ends up going in the sixth round. So they just knew the world knew something we didn't from
Yeah.
the inside. I don't know if there was some injuries there. Let me see. Is he on mock draftable? Did he get into the? Did he get in? Yeah, he was. Okay, so he's at the combine. Let's see. So I think okay. I'm already seeing the red flags. These are the things that 2026 Simon knows that 2023 Simon did not.
Mm,
Uh, what did I just say his measurables were? Do you remember 6'4", 245 is what I said? That's what he was listed at. That's
yes.
what we talked about him as. Comes in the combine 6'3¾", 237. So like already not quite there.
Right.
But dang it, Ben. Vertical jump, 37 inches, 79th percentile. Broad jump, 125 inches, 88th percentile. Three cone drill, 6.91 seconds, 81st percentile. Wingspan, 80 and 5/8 inch, 90th percentile. So the athleticism was there. Maybe not
Yeah.
quite. And the height was there, almost 6'4". Probably came in at 237 to try to run a little bit faster. Although he didn't even run at the 40. I don't have 40 time. So that's probably actually him bulked up. So he was probably actually playing a little bit later. Um, I said at the beginning, I made the first pick and said Sonny Styles, and I said I've been chasing this guy for years, right? And it's Darian Beavers. I wanted Darian Beavers to be a thing. I wanted the 6'4" former safety playing linebacker, hitting people, runs out. And he was on that Cincinnati team that I apparently just loved that aesthetic. I love those guys all coming out together.
Yeah.
Um, and it just never happened for Beavers. You drafted in 2022, sixth round. I think practice squad for the Giants was technically on the roster for a little bit in 23 and just never played. It never worked out. Don't know what he's doing now, but shout out Darian Beavers. I'm gonna put him on here. Because I remember being in the basement of my old house screaming to you and Ronan about this guy, wanting this guy to be
I
drafted
know.
somewhere and play, being so in on it. And talk about a my guy. I waited till the 2 hour mark to mention him. Uh, but here we are. This is when I think of my guys, man. It's Sonny Styles in 2026, and it was because of Darian Beavers in 2022.
I know, right? Gotta go figure. Drives us
I've
crazy.
I have a type. That's why they're here.
All
All
right.
right, what do
I've
you
got
got? You
I've
you got a
got
defensive
one
lineman and
miss
a linebacker.
left. You know what? I'm taking two linebackers. I'm sorry.
Do it.
It's because I ran out of I only had one defensive tackle. That's why. So that's the exception. I've got one hit and one miss. Here's the
Okay.
miss. Marty Mapu, Sacramento State,
Oof.
2023. Uh, I loved this guy. Absolutely loved him. Linebacker safety hybrid, and I just kept thinking to myself, man, if he ends up in a Patriots level defense. But that's tricky thinking right there, right? Because the Patriots were fairly unique in the way they ran their system. And so many guys who played for the Patriots went to other places and produced very little, right? You could see huge drop off. So that's always a dangerous way to think. And when you go back and look at Marty Mapu, a little bit too much hybrid, maybe not quite enough size and not quite enough position identification, right? So, you know, I I really liked him, never panned out. So that's my miss. I'll drop him into the linebacker spot.
All right, I'm up one more time, Ben, and I have my flex offensive spot here. So on my short list are guys I've already kind of explained the archetype, right? My other two receivers, or my next receiver that I really had on here was Alec Pierce. Again, Cincinnati, that
Yeah,
class,
yeah,
tall guy, uber athlete though. Like Fry Omenor and Lane, their thing was like contested catches. And Pierce was, even though he's 6'3", he can stack corners like an MFer. And it took him a while, but he eventually started doing that. So I could go that way. Again, just round out this whole Cincinnati thing that I love that year.
yeah,
And I also love the like volleyball player background. Um, in my like late teens into my 20s, I realized just how athletic volleyball players are. And just like imagining what I've seen from like totally unassuming volleyball players and how athletic they are, and then just like translating that into a football player's body. I was all in on Pierce. Um, a guy just 2 drafts ago that we both really loved, Jaden Higgins,
yes.
goes to the Texans. He was primed for a big year, and I think, tore his ACL. I think that was his injury in camp,
Mm,
during one of those joint practices. And again, just a tall guy that can block, that can win contested catches, and a bit of a route runner. Um, so that's another guy. You mentioned no fullbacks, right? We're not gonna have full.
yeah,
I could stick a little Connor Hayward here. Again, more my guy just because, Hayward and Steelers, but
right.
I also loved his profile of he switched positions in college, so he had a little bit of everything. He was Michigan State's running back for a year, and then he was their tight end the next year. Um, so I could throw him in there a little bit. Um, if I was gonna go with like a tight end, I only had 3 tight ends written, and it was Musgrave, Darnell Washington, who I mentioned, and I really do have a lot of Steelers coincidentally, but that's just because Omar Khan drafts like people want people to draft now. Um, the other guy was Gunnar Helm though, from a couple of classes ago. I really like Gunnar Helm coming out, but
Yeah.
not to the degree that was like right in. It was more just like someone's gonna get a good player when they get this guy. Um. Is there anybody else on my long list of receivers that I could throw at you that would be interesting? Naylor, I liked a little bit coming out. I liked his descriptions. I liked a little bit of what I saw on film. I had Cedric Tillman and A.T. Perry again, just big guys.
Yeah.
Um, Brian Thomas Jr. coming out with that class of those receivers, and he was considered like a step or two down from Harrison and Neighbors. And for me with BTJ, it was just like this guy's 6'4" and runs a 4.3. Like we should
Yes.
probably view that as strongly as we view all the other ones. Um, and then this past class, I really liked Brazel. I really liked Williams, like I mentioned. Concepcion, I was pretty high on.
Hmm.
And Cardinal Tate, I was high on. So there's a lot of guys there. I'll probably just go ahead and go with Alec Pierce because he ended up being a second round pick, and that was a guy that, again, I was really into. So, that was a long-winded way to get a lot of other names in.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and go Alec Pierce.
Yeah. And that's a good pick by you. Alec Pierce was a guy that I didn't really have an opinion on, slipped way beneath my radar for whatever reason that particular year just did. The Jaden Higgins pick, I love that, man. I was with you all the way. I was like, Higgins, yes. And then the Brian Thomas thing, I never was particularly high on Brian Thomas as far like, I thought first round, yes, but not as high as the other guys. No. And that first year, man, he was like that was like, dang it, I missed on that one. Don't bet against LSU receivers. But anyway, uh, Brian Thomas still working it.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. See now I already wrote down Pierce, so I'm not gonna cheat. But yeah, I really did love Higgins. But I feel like it was more in the sense of because I think I still had him in the 30s, and that was where he went. That was where it was kind of mocked. So Pierce, I remember specifically him getting compared to that group of Pickens and Sky Moore, and those guys all got drafted like 3 in a row. I just remember being like, I'm gonna be a Pierce guy. Like I'm gonna go down as a Pierce guy from this group. All right, Ben, your last spot. What are you gonna do? Who's your last guy that you're gonna take in this little draft exercise we got going on?
Well, it's a guy that the millions of people that are still listening to this show are going to scream at me and go, everybody loved him. Well, they did, but my claim for picking him will become apparent in a second. That's going to be Will Anderson out of Alabama.
You
Now, listen,
dog. Just throwing him in at
everybody
the end.
loved him. Yes, I'm going to take him right there at the end. And the reason why is because of the trade that Houston made to go back up and get him.
Yeah. Hmm.
And how many people, like, not everybody, but boy, there were a lot of people that crushed Houston for doing that. Just talking about how stupid that was, too aggressive, too much value. And I'm on the other end of the spectrum and have been, I haven't moved off of this. If that's where the cream of the crop players are, and you can afford to go up and get them, and you can get a second one, then heck yeah, you do it. And I fought that very hard, but boy, it was amazing after that draft how many people were against that
Hmm.
move, not because they didn't like Will Anderson, but because they just didn't think that was the way to do it. And they like, what are you doing, Houston? And I was like, no, man, this guy, this type of player is that good that it's worth the risk to go up and do that. So that's why I'm going to go out swinging with that one.
I love you getting that in on a technicality of he's my guy because I believed in the process, and that makes him more my guy.
I can't end on Marty Mapu and David Ojabo, man.
Oh man. Okay. This was so much fun. I really hope this gave the viewers some insight into what we do, what we like, how we've grown. Um, or maybe they'll say we're exactly the same and we just wait for things to work out. Like Darian Beavers, I've been chasing for 5 years and I finally got a Sonny Styles.
Yes.
You were chasing, let's see, who can we say you were chasing here for a long time? Who's one of these older? You've been
Oh,
chasing Ojabu and you got
yes.
Will Anderson. Although they were only like 2 years apart. You were chasing Aquanu. Here's yours. You were chasing Aquanu, and you got Gray Zabel.
There you go.
And you know what? That all worked out. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. I don't know if this is going to end up going up in two, three, or just one video. Um, but really appreciate you guys being here. It was a fun summer of redrafts and draft conversations and segments from mine and Ben's pods. Here's what's coming up soon. Film rooms on 2027 draft prospects, mock drafts. Look for some fantasy content, some dynasty rankings, uh, through the lens of getting ready for the draft. So if you're into the fantasy football and dynasty and you need a head start on what rookies you're going to be looking at for next season, we will have some content for you on that every once in a while on this channel as well. And then as well as just stuff like this, Ben and I like to do these projects kind of throughout the year. But you're gonna have a lot of films, a lot of mocks, a lot of player profiles up on this channel getting ready for 2027. We're full go for 2027. I'm starting my offensive line tape work next week. I'm really, really excited. So be on the lookout for all of that. Ben, thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Make sure you're checking out Ben on Ben, can you plug all your shows for me now?
Yes, absolutely. Pro Football Focus on YouTube. The two main things we do is there's more draft stuff over there, and then the Washington Commanders. Me and Robertson do Washington Commanders every week during the regular season, and basically every other week during the off season. But boy, we go deep. I mean, every part of the roster. So check that out if you are a Commanders fan.
So check that out. The Odds On Favorite feed audio is still uploading some stuff every once in a while, so check that out as well. And then Simon and Friends podcast, where you can hear my show on audio, Apple, Spotify as well. In the meantime, stay subscribed here. If you're a fan of the NFL draft, you will not want to not be here with us this season. We thank you all so much. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.